So normally when I've been painting my sketchbook covers, I have waited until I am almost done or completely done with like filling the sketchbook, but for this one in particular, I just have been looking forward to painting it, I guess. So even though I'm like 20% give or take done with the sketchbook, I wanted to paint the cover of it because I was getting kind of bored looking at the actual cover it came with. This is just the Canson XL mixed media paper. It is one of the smaller sketchbooks. I did transition from one of their larger sizes over to a much smaller one. I don't think this is their smallest size, but it is significantly smaller than the last few I've been using, which has been nice. It's been a change of pace. I wanted to use a smaller sketchbook for a while, so I'm glad I started using this one. And for the actual cover, I didn't have too much in mind of what I wanted to do. I just kind of had like a color palette and wanted to do some abstract-ish sort of thing. Initially, I was going to do a very similar look to what I did for my first video that I did a sketchbook cover painting video for, and that was like very oceany inspired, I guess. It had like dark blues and whites, and then I used gold foil, and I was going to do a very similar thing except pink, white, and gold foil. But that is not what I ended up doing, actually. I went with like pinks, reds, and oranges, and a lot of white with this one. The paints I used were mainly Craftsmart paints, which I don't have super nice paints, and I'm okay with that because I don't use acrylic paints very often. I have a couple of Liquitex heavy body paints that I got from an Art Snacks box, so I did use a couple of those. But for the most part, all the colors in this, minus a tiny, tiny bit of red that I used, were Craftsmart paints, which I know nothing about the quality of acrylic paints. I definitely can tell that the Liquitex ones are better, obviously, but the Craftsmart ones work for me just because I don't really know any better and I don't use acrylic paints super often, so for the time being I don't have a huge use for super nice quality acrylics just because I won't really use them. I'm really bad about like getting into different mediums, which I know is not really good, but I haven't really actively used acrylics or like a cheaper fake acrylic basically since I was in high school. I've used them to paint my sketchbook covers, but aside from that, I have not really used acrylic paints, which I kind of want to get into using acrylic paints and actually knowing how to use the medium and being comfortable with it, but I haven't. And like, I've looked into purchasing more Liquitex heavy body paints, but they are quite pricey. So for the time being, I'm sticking with like watercolor and markers, colored pencils, etc., what I normally use. But eventually I hope to branch out and like get into like gouache and acrylics, because I do have a gouache set, but it is the Reeves gouache, and I swatched it and tested it and like painted like 2 things with it, and it's not nice gouache. I can tell it's very bad gouache, so don't foresee myself using that anytime soon. But onto the cover. Like I said, I did have a color scheme in mind, however, I wasn't really sure how I was going to execute this. I laid down colors at first, and then I kind of started painting florals here and there, and then I didn't really like how most of that looked, so I slapped more paint on top of it. But in the end, I do like how it turned out, actually. I wasn't super happy with my last sketchbook cover painting, but I do really like how this one turned out. I think it's just fun and bright and cute looking. I really like pink. Pink is my favorite color, so I was very happy with that. My last one was pretty dark, and this one was quite the opposite, so that's a change of pace. And initially, I was going to use gold foil with this, because I still have quite a bit of gold foil, but I didn't, and that was mainly because I didn't want to wait for the gold foil to like set and then have to coat it with the sealer and then have to coat the entire thing with Mod Podge over again. And I just kind of got lazy and talked myself out of it and decided to just stick with gold paint. Plus, there was already a lot visually going on with this, so I'm not like super upset that I decided not to do that, because who knows, maybe I would have ruined it. But yeah, so I just went in with some gold paint, and I do like how this one turned out. I wish there was more to it, because I feel like it's pretty simple and like plain, but at the same time, like, I do really like how it looks, so yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with this one. I wasn't a huge fan of my last one simply because when I put the Mod Podge on at the very end to seal it, I didn't wait for the paint to dry, and I smeared it everywhere. Oh my god, I'm still upset about that, but I don't want to fix it. I'm too lazy to go back and actually fix it. But with this one, I made sure to wait enough time for that Mod Podge, or not the Mod Podge, for the paint to dry, because the gold paint was the last thing I did. So I kept tapping it and being like, okay, are you done? Are you dry? Because I didn't want to smudge it like last time. I did learn my lesson for now. It's a temporary learnt lesson because I'm sure I'll do it in the future, because that is like 100% like me. That's something I would do. That's something I do. Come to this channel for good humor, guys. Good humor. But then once that was dry, I set it back in, and this was like the least trouble I've ever had putting the cover and the back cover back in the like spiral, so that was pleasant, because normally it's a pain in the butt, but I don't know, I guess I'm learning how to do things better, because this is like 5th time I've painted a sketchbook cover, I think, so yay, that's good. But yeah, I am really happy with how this guy turned out. I am excited to paint more sketchbook covers or just use acrylics as a whole. I've like been talking myself into painting canvases because I have a bunch of canvases, and I don't use them because whenever they would go on sale at Michael's, I would just be like, oh, cheap canvases, fully knowing I had canvases at home that weren't painted on. So I would like to get into painting acrylics more, but will I? Debatable. I'm sure eventually I will, but it'll probably be like several years between now and then. We'll see. We'll find out the hard way with that one. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.